Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the November 8th, 2023 meeting of the Community Preservation Committee. I am Joe Barnes, co-chair. Before we get into the agenda for the night, I would like to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. So when I call your name, if you would please respond in the affirmative. Maureen Callahan.
Here.
Laura Dorfman.
Here.
Reg Foster.
Here.
Jim Rosenbaum is absent tonight. Dave Hera.
Here.
Jean McKnight.
Here.
And Joe Barnes, chair, responds here as well. Staff members present, Cecilia Simachek.
Here.
And Lauren Spinney.
Here.
For this meeting, the CPC is convening live as well as Zoom, as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that some attendees are participating by video conference. All supporting materials that have been provided to members of this body are available on the town's website unless otherwise noted. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda. Some ground rules we establish and use each meeting. I will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, the chair will go down the line of members, inviting each by name to provide any comment, questions, or motions. We ask you to please hold until your name is called. Committee members, I will try my best to recognize your hands. Please speak up if I don't see it. To the listening public, this is a meeting and not a hearing. You may want to make a statement or ask a question, but the time for doing so is not tonight. Feel free to contact either Cecilia or Lauren with any questions you may have during the course of the evening. For the purpose for any response, please wait until the chair recognizes the floor and to you and state your name before speaking. All right, so each vote taken at this meeting will be conducted by roll call vote. All right, moving forward, we have the agenda tonight. The committee chair introduction and updates. There is no update other than what we have on the agenda. We have the three items tonight to consider for eligibility. We have three applications that have arrived to us. They are the Needham Housing Authority Linden Chambers redevelopment, the high school tennis court construction, and thirdly, the DeFazio complex fencing improvements. Those are the three applications that will be under consideration going forward in our cycle this year. Let's get to the first one, the Needham Housing Authority Linden Chambers redevelopment. Everyone has had the opportunity to review the application. In a nutshell, the amount requested for the phase 1 and phase 2 of this application is $5.5 million. The estimated total project cost is $79 million. So we will be considering phase 1 and phase 2 application in the amount of $5.5 million. We have critical dates that have been applied, and we have project summary. I don't think it's necessary to read through the application. I would ask if there are any comments, discussion on the Needham Housing Authority application. Jean.
I know that this was to be before town meeting last spring, isn't that right? And a consultant was hired in order to evaluate this application. And what is the status of that process?
I don't want to speak for you, Reg, but I'll jump in and say that I believe the application was pulled last year, correct?
Correct.
Because there was some,
We withdrew it.
withdrew it, yeah,
Voluntarily. Yeah.
right. I think there were a number of questions that were there that couldn't be answered at the time for financial reasons, is that right?
It actually was that, I think it was the consensus of the committee, Gene was there last year and Dave was as well, that it was prematurely filed, that the project was not ripe enough to fully give consideration. And then the other is that because of funding, other funding that we had obtained, it wasn't necessary for continuing pre-development activities, and some of that funding, half of that funding is from the CPC the year before. Last year was for construction funds that we were hoping to get granted, and I think it, common wisdom and good, good points, is that let's see, get the project further along than it was in February or March. We had just started the conceptual design. We are now way further down the road than that. And that will come out as part of the diligence process. And when presented with that opinion, the Housing Authority agreed, the board agreed, and withdrew the application, if that makes sense.
Okay,
Yeah, but with the reservation that
And if
we
I
will
can just-
be filing it again, this year when we are right for that now.
question from Laura?
Yeah, I just, Jean, wanted to let you know that that person whose name is Emily Achtenberg, Lauren, jump in if I'm wrong about that. She started the process, she's reviewed some materials, she's had some conversations with Margaret Moran at the Cambridge Housing Authority. And we've had a couple of meetings with her, and so she's in the process of trying to wrap her head around this project and the funding sources, and will help us in terms of preparing diligence questions and whatnot.
Oh, thank you. That's what I wanted to know, Laura. And so that this is still in process with the consultant. As far as this
Yes.
review goes and whatever recommendations come out of it, we will be awaiting that. Yeah.
Correct.
Well, right.
Yes.
She-
Okay.
1 second. She will have this application, as do we. We will be securing due diligence questions from the committee. She will see those due diligence questions and will add to those due diligence from her point of view. She is for the Housing Authority application only.
Right.
So we won't be having her weigh in on DeFazio or the tennis courts or anything else, simply the Housing Authority application. So yes, she'll be an active part of this particular application going forward throughout the year.
And she is our consultant.
She is our
not-
consultant.
Not the
Yes.
housing.
Not the Housing Authority, correct,
Right.
correct.
Thank
And also,
No,
Laura?
I'm sorry, I was just gonna, maybe Lauren and Cecilia can expand on this. She's also going to work, or we are also gonna work with TCHOC, which is the committee that was created to provide some oversight in terms of housing, some houses, this housing authority project, I guess in particular. Is that correct, Cecilia and Lauren?
Yeah, so TCHOC held their first meeting Monday. So 2 days ago. Wow, it's been a long week. And trying to kind of determine their scope and their charge. And so we'll be reaching out and kind of looking at communicating with the CPC on the housing authority projects. But Emily will take us through and be asking questions and providing us some insight into what she sees on the application and stuff throughout, like people said, throughout the whole process, including after the presentation and everything up until probably about March.
Thank you. I'm glad to be reminded of that. I had thought there was a committee appointed, but I haven't heard much about it. So what is the full name of the committee?
it's the town financed
Community Housing
Housing
Oversight
Oversight
Committee, TCHOC.
May I add to the report from Cecilia? I attended the meeting virtually as an attendee here. And I think there's two more things that would be relevant to the committee. And by the way, probably the video of that will be put up in due course, was recorded. It's not up yet, last I checked, but the first one was there was a long discussion of exactly what their charter was with respect to, the Community Preservation Committee and other town oversight bodies and just, sort of a need to sort of further clarify that didn't hopefully take place at the meeting. And then the second thing is they decided that the very key next step they needed to do was to receive a presentation from the Needham Housing Authority, but more importantly from our development, consultants as well, Margaret Moran, that's been here before. And that was scheduled, I believe, for the 29th of November, isn't that right? Am I remembering the right date there? It was like a Wednesday, if that's the Wednesday.
Yes.
So we've been, Katie King, who's providing, along with, of course, I think Lauren, you both and Cecilia were both there as well. But Katie King and I have already talked about, keeping that date on the schedule. And part of it had to do with just trying to bring them up to speed. They're even less up to speed than this committee is. I think that's a fair statement because they're all meeting for the first time. They have several, people like Peter Pingler and Rick Zimboon, of course, know the story at least up until last March when we withdrew, but there are many others on the committee, John Connolly and Heidi Frail, and there was a different degrees of knowledge. And let's see, Rhonda Spector's on the committee, so they want a major sort of presentation, what is going on, what's the status, and so forth and so on.
Okay. Dave, you had a question?
Yeah, I was just saying that my understanding is that, for this meeting, we have to opine on whether this application is eligible. And
Correct.
That's it.
That 2 years ago, the same project was deemed eligible and got some funding.
1 year ago, right?
Got some funding.
Yep.
Last year, the project was deemed eligible and, but it was
Postponed.
postponed. So this year, it's the same project.
Right.
So I don't think we need to,
I don't think we're gonna get into the weeds tonight.
yeah, I
That's for
think we
sure.
should, vote on, that it's eligible and.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. Yeah,
Oh, and
that's
real
exactly
quick,
right.
Lauren had brought up a good point as she was listening through some of the old minutes, conveniently timed, that we had discussed last year about upon receiving the application, sending them off to council early on in the process. So I would think now, and just reconfirm eligibility of all parts, just so we're not in that situation where,
All three applications.
yeah, all three,
Right.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Where we're, voting on something in March that we realize may or may not be completely eligible. So as long as everyone's okay here, we'll be doing that in the next couple of days.
Okay.
It's great. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions about this particular application and whether it's eligible for funding or are moving forward or not? Anyone? Do we take a vote on that? Is it simply, we do? Okay. So, let's vote as to whether we believe the, application as we have received it is eligible for CPC consideration. We'll do a roll call. Laura?
We need a second.
Oh, we
Well,
need a second.
motion.
We need a motion.
He just made the
I
motion.
just made the motion.
Okay, I second.
A little discombobulated, but it was.
This is a good one.
Okay, second?
I second.
Second. Oh.
Second. All right. Laura,
Yes.
Maureen,
Yes,
Dave,
Yes.
Jean,
Yes,
Reg,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes as well. This, then, will you take care of, getting this to, council? Okay. Second application for consideration comes from the Park and Recreation Department. It is in the amount of $2.6 million. This is a full construction amount. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Cecilia, but we had provided them with $50,000 for pre-construction or design costs
Design.
earlier. Okay, design. And this now is for the full construction. Does it fit into one of our boxes? I would think that recreation seems to be the obvious one. Any question or comment on the application?
As to its eligibility.
That's right, that's with eligibility.
I have a question, just, I remember last year, they indicated on their application for the design funds in anticipated construction cost. Do we remember if this was is in the ballpark?
No, it's not.
It's much more.
I think the anticipated construction cost was 1.5 million,
Mhm.
but that was for 4 courts, I believe.
Oh.
Now this is for 8 courts.
Yeah, I know they
did
were
think it
looking
was
at
more
4 to
than-
8.
Right, more courts.
Yeah.
Which is good, right?
I think it is. You know, that's one person's opinion, but I think it is more than was requested or anticipated last year.
Because I was a little bit shocked by the amount, so I
Mhm.
just wanted to
Yeah.
ask what other people's memory
That's
was.
down the road, for our diligence,
And with regard to its eligibility, I'm glad that they checked off recreation. And I think it would be good in our motion, to say that, the Community Preservation Committee believes that this is an eligible project in the category of recreation. And
Is
I'll
that
make
how we,
motion.
do we approve it in that bucket last time, the $50,000?
Probably.
I believe we did. I
Yeah.
believe we did.
Okay, good.
So Jean is gonna make, unless there's further comments, anyone else want to comment on the eligibility? Jean, you want to make the motion?
I move that this committee, believes that the, what they're calling it here, the, Needham High School Tennis Court Improvements Construction Project is an eligible project in the category of recreation.
And second,
Taking a roll call vote. Laura,
Yes.
Maureen,
Yes.
Dave,
yes,
Jean,
Yes.
Reg,
yes.
and the chair votes yes as well. Thank you, everyone. Our final application received to this point comes also, well, it comes from the Department of Public Works, also Park and Recreation. And this is in the category of recreation as well. The amount requested is $417,000. We don't have an estimated total project cost. Any discussion on the application submitted by the Park and Rec and Forestry Department? Dave?
I thought the 400,000+ was the construction cost.
That's what I thought too. Because it says on number 8, it says estimated total project cost, if different, and they didn't put anything in.
Okay. So that would be the total cost that they're looking for.
My understanding is it's just a fence.
Okay, yeah, you don't need design money or
The purpose of this, Mr. Chair, is to indicate whether there's any matching funds or any other funds. So the total project cost would be 617,000, and that means 200,000 is coming from somewhere else.
Mhm. But
Okay.
apparently not, it's gonna come all from us.
Yeah.
Because that's the way I understand this application.
Yeah,
The due diligence.
So
when you discover-
hopefully
We-
for further details.
that's right, that's right.
Subject to more
Yeah, so
questions.
from an eligibility point.
right. So the question is, does it qualify under the existing guidelines we have from CPC? Under the area of recreation? Questions, comments, anyone?
I don't know. I mean, I've spent several years, I'm an amateur, but and I focus on housing as well. But I honestly don't know that a fence, is eligible or not. I've never seen that always, every park and rec, application over the years has usually been for either the preservation of an existing park or trail or something, or the creation of a new public amenity, but honestly, I'm not sure.
Or a rebuild.
Yeah, but this, in this case, I don't know if the fence itself, which is not, obviously it's ancillary, it's required to keep balls from going into the swamp or something, but, or in the pond. But I just don't know.
Dave?
Well, there was a project last year, right? That was with.
The tot lot,
No, the Claxton Field project.
yeah, which got withdrawn, so we never, but that was to actually preserve that field.
But this, in my opinion, this is just a piece of that project. And, it could have been combined,
So I speak from ignorance
yeah.
and not lack of knowledge, but I do know that, for example, 2 years ago, we ran into a situation where town council opined that a housing project, a housing request, was completely not eligible because there was only a portion of the project that was eligible, and I just don't know.
Yeah, well,
If I,
we'll have the town council review this anyway. right?
if I could add to the discussion here, looking at the guidelines for approving or considering recreational facilities, it is to acquire, create, preserve, and restore.
Store.
I think restore is where we're gonna be,
And,
discussion here.
and there's nothing that says that what's to be restored had to be acquired with CPA funds in the first place.
No,
or
I'm not
anything
raising
like
that point.
No.
But that does seem, I was thinking, oh, well, this is just replacing, but that's exactly what restore means.
I think so. I think
Yeah.
so.
Yeah. And the back.
Also, oh, sorry. No, I don't want to interrupt. I'm trying to raise my hand, but I don't know how to.
I'm sorry, I'm not looking in your direction, Laura,
All right.
sorry.
Click
No,
on
that's
that.
okay.
You talking?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I was saying that the
Go ahead.
backstop and all is integral to the playing of the game of baseball.
Yeah,
So they need these fences to make the game work for them. The perimeter fencing, it may be to protect the wetlands or to protect the little children from going in the wetlands too. Yeah, so that's all I have to say.
Laura?
So wouldn't this be a capital improvement?
Yes,
So in that case, it should be eligible.
Oh, okay. I thought you were questioning whether in fact it was eligible. Yes, I think it is. Anyone else? Lauren?
I just, from doing the minutes not that long ago on the Claxton Field application, I remember there were portions of that were deemed not eligible. I think it was the pathways.
yeah, but that
So with that.
it never,
type of thing-
that never got, discussed in any kind of detail.
And I remember we discussed it as a debatable issue too. Nobody was suggesting that a
Mhm.
pathway that leads you from the parking lot into the woods or something isn't eligible. It could be,
I guess I'm not against using CPA funds as soon as they're needed for whatever they're needed for. I don't think they do anybody any good sitting in a, savings account making 0.01 interest, or whatever we have to do. So,
That's 5% now, Reg.
We should be.
5% now, not 1%.
Not necessarily for government funds, because there's a
Oh,
whole
okay.
regulations on that. I'm not talking about your great CDs you got going there, but finally. But my point, let me get to my point I'm trying to make, which is, I would, of course, go with the will of the committee, but I'm going to abstain from voting. But I would advocate, especially since we're starting a month early, that, and we'll be meeting in December,
Yeah.
So, I would prefer to hear town council, who seems to be very strict on these things, opine, that definitely meets the requirements. Before I vote on it, and I'll vote on it next month, but I would abstain this time. here.
Dave?
Yeah, I mean, why can't we vote on it contingent upon favorable opinion from the town council, because I think the whole purpose of this initial screening
Mhm.
of eligibility is to give the applicants time to prepare a more detailed application for us. And, we
Right.
don't want to we don't keep them in limbo.
Right, well, isn't that the case with all three of these?
Yeah,
We're
I
gonna
thought- yeah.
approve it, but the town council is gonna have
Yeah,
his say, which could negate our vote, but
right. Not negate it, but we could reconsider.
reconsider it. Jean?
We didn't expressly say that this is contingent on the opinion of council. We used the word in our motions, believe.
Mm-hmm,
And I think that was what was intended. We believe it's true,
Yeah.
okay,
it's implied that we're going to get it. I'm comfortable with that. I'm comfortable to go ahead in
okay.
the same manner with this one.
Any other comments or questions? Anyone want to make a motion?
Yeah,
All right, Dave?
I move that we deem the Claxon Field fence project eligible contingent upon a review by the town council.
DeFazio.
Or is it
DeFazio,
the-
yeah.
I
DeFazio.
second.
We have second. Okay, any other comments, any discussion? Okay, putting it to a vote. Laura,
Yes,
Maureen,
Yes,
Dave,
Yes.
Jean,
Yes,
Reg?
I will abstain and hope for an opportunity to vote for it again next month,
Okay. Then
but
the
are we gonna
chair-
have another vote, though?
The
Are we
chair-
gonna vote again?
No.
Chair votes yes. I think, Rick, you want to be sure that you're on solid ground here with
I
town.
just don't know.
Okay.
I just absolutely
It's all
don't
right,
know.
we've got,
I don't believe it or disbelieve it. I just lack information.
Okay.
That's all.
we've got 5 votes.
Yeah, that's-
Dave, go ahead.
Oh, I don't think we need to vote again.
No, we've moved it. Okay. That takes care of the eligibility portion of the applications. We've got some other items on the agenda here. To appoint, which we have already done, a CPC representative to Town Finance Community Housing Oversight Committee, which is Peter Pingatore.
I'm sorry, are we designating liaison?
Yes, we are. Yes, yep. Let me get through this and then,
Okay.
I'll go back. We have already nominated and voted on Peter being our representative. The town clerk needs something in writing from us indicating such. So I have the form that she gave me. It requires signatures from members. I don't have the correct date, though.
June 23rd, 2023.
It's their signature date. I think it's the appointment date there. There.
The form is the same at the top as on the bottom. I think she wants one and we keep one for her own records, okay? So if you would sign that, pass it around in any place up here and then down there, a signature above and a signature below.
and we already voted this.
We've already voted this, it's just kind of confirming it. Or giving it
Joe,
the record, yes.
does this require every committee member signature? Should we circulate it to the remote attendees and?
I guess it would be wise if we could.
Can you just
I
check the
think if we-
dates?
I
The
think if
dates
I
we
have
on
a
that?
question. I
If we
wasn't
have
on the
a
committee
quorum
in June,
sign
so
it, we're fine.
Hold on, Laura.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Laura.
Maureen.
oh, it's Maureen.
Maureen, sorry.
hi, everybody. I don't know if I should sign because I wasn't on the committee in June. I don't know how that plays out or works out, but I would just raise that as an issue.
Yeah.
Good
if we're-
point.
We can find out and confirm.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm happy to sign it. I have no issues. I just don't know, having not been on in June, if I should.
But even without Maureen, do we have a quorum with Joe, Laura, Reg, Dave and me?
We only have 4. Well,
Joe,
I mean-
Laura, Reg, Dave, we have
How
5.
are we gonna get signatures from the remote folks?
Don't need it.
We can scan it and send it
Okay, all right.
to Laura. Laura can sign it, scan it, send it back, as long as the clerk
Of
doesn't need
course.
regionals.
Okay,
Yeah, no, that.
And.
I mean, I could give my approval verbally if you want something to put in the minutes and in the recording.
Well,
You already did. We
No,
haven't voted on it.
and clerk usually needs a signature, not minutes here. so-
Yeah, Laura may have to
so I'll
drop
take it.
by and sign it then.
Yeah.
I can do that too, whatever works.
Needs the original.
So I would suggest you have the original sign, she's, 5-minute walk from town hall, so, it's one way or another, and then give it. I was just gonna ask, there's a missing date there on, how long the length of the appointment is.
It's
3
filled in through June of 2026.
Oh, June.
It's a
Okay.
3-year
So
term.
there's no day. Okay, great.
Laura, I can keep it with me at town hall and then whenever you have a minute.
Okay, great, thank you.
Did
Yeah,
you sign it?
No,
yeah,
that's-
I'm just gonna buy whatever. Just put a little note. If she swings by when I'm not there, yeah.
all right, to Reg's point, now that we have 3 projects and, each project needs a liaison or 2. I'm gonna follow Peter's lead from what he has done in past years and looking at the roster. I would like to have, if they're willing, for the Linden Chambers project. Now, the liaisons are going to hopefully contact the representatives from the project, interact, and get some additional information that will also support the due diligence questions. So for Linden Chambers, I would ask Laura and Dave Hera if they would be representatives from the CPC to Needham Housing Authority. For the tennis courts, I would ask Reg and Maureen.
Check this one is running over.
And for the DeFazio fence project, Jim Rosenbaum and Gene McKnight. I'm gonna be kind of a swingman and jump in for a project or 2 as we go along.
Okay, so you want me to find
If you would, Gene, with,
person?
yes, with Jim Rosenbaum, you do the DeFazio.
Can Jim do that? As he's, part of the recreation.
Yeah, our policy is that you don't get to be the representative of your own committee that you're, been nominated by. I also would like to throw, Mr. Chair, if it's okay, one other consideration into which Ms. McKnight might not like the idea, and I haven't consulted with her about this, but, we, as you will find out shortly, there's a very intense process that has started up between the planning board and the housing authority over the zoning regulations, and more information will be apparent, but of all, and Laura and Dave are fine too, so I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. But Gene will be, of necessity, learning a huge amount about what's going on, and also I think coordinating information flow between this committee and the planning board would be part of her role. And I'm wondering whether, and she's got to put the work in anyway. It's nothing extra here to be, given what she's got to do as a planning board member. And I'm wondering, would it be a better idea? And I didn't even think of this until just this moment, that either Laura or Dave, swap out with Gene on another project, because of efficiency, basically.
Yeah, the only thing is I'm a little bit overwhelmed
Right.
with both the Housing Needham Committee and the Planning Board, of course. And I hesitate to take on a project that is really a big one with a special committee of the town, a special consultant. I really feel as though I should say no to that. Even though I understand it might be easier for me than for others to take it on, it's still something more, and I'm at the edge of what I can do.
Understood. Laura and I-
Gene, I agree. I'm sorry, Joe, go ahead.
No, I was saying that you and I had discussed assignments prior to the meeting. And we went back and forth and juggled a little bit, and we thought that this would make the most sense. Laura has had some experience with the Housing Authority
Yes.
application from last year.
No question.
Dave certainly was an active member last year, and that's a big one.
It's a big
I would
one,
like-
and yeah.
Go
No,
ahead.
I just feel like Jean has a lot on her plate and she can,
Yep.
obviously she's gonna be here, she's gonna be at the planning board meeting, so that's how we can communicate, right? I mean,
Yes,
Yep,
So I'm just throwing that out. there.
Okay.
I'm not advocating one way or the other.
No, it's
just
it's
a matter
another
of
way of
discussion.
thinking.
Yeah, right.
Yep. Yep.
thanks for your confidence.
It's not even that, I mean, it's just, I don't think, anybody's gonna be doing a better or worse job, it's just like,
Yeah.
You're kind of stuck with it anyway, that was what
I
I was thinking.
understand,
that-
So Lauren, you have the names associated with each of the projects,
I was just gonna ask you to clarify that for me.
Okay.
I have the housing authority, but
Laura and Dave.
Yep.
The tennis court construction, Reg and Maureen. And then the DeFazio fence project, Jim Rosenbaum and Jean McKnight.
So,
May I raise one more selfish thing? I would like to raise the same point that Jean just made. I am like flat out from just shepherding this huge, it's an $80 million project through all the processes you
Mhm.
have to get in. And literally, this is my fourth meeting, a third of my fourth evening meetings, and I actually been on this all day today. I went to Cambridge Housing Authority at 9 o'clock in the morning, and I got back here at 20 minutes of 7 to a very grumpy wife. And rightfully so. And I, don't want to shirk my duty, but, I'm wondering if the DeFazio one would be, fencing would be kind of simpler. It's a very straightforward thing as opposed to the tennis courts. We got into a, very robust debate about the application last year. And now it looks like it's a twice as big project. I don't know, I'll certainly do the recommendation of the board co-chairs here, but is there anybody willing to swap with me, Jean, and not Jean, I guess, but maybe swap with Jim on the tennis court construction one? Although I guess that doesn't make sense, because I guess you didn't explain your thinking, but both Maureen and Jim are new. And you wanted to pair them up
We
with
wanted to
somebody.
keep some
Yeah, all right.
veterans together.
Yeah.
so
It's important.
my previous comment, can somebody from a group that's sponsoring a project be the liaison?
I don't know of any says they can't.
If that's the case,
Which-
you could be the liaison for
In
the,
the park,
No, I
Linda
could, I
James.
could do the tennis court or the fencing, I could
No,
not do the,
I think he's asking, can Jim Rosenbaum?
and Maureen do the tennis court.
No.
And then
No,
I just realized they're.
let, let me rephrase my question.
Rephrase it, go ahead.
Can a person who is associated with the proponent of a project be the liaison for that project? In other words, can you be the liaison for the Linden Chambers project?
No,
Okay.
that's a long-standing practice.
Okay, so,
But if it's
Can
a
Jim-
fact gathering, questions to be answered, does that taint the
I'm just
process?
asking a question.
No, I don't know that it,
So it
I
has
think
been
it's a
the,
good policy to not have the person who is the proponent committee or the proponent
is
outside.
Jim the Parks and Rec person?
yes, he is.
Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't connect.
Yeah,
the
yeah,
dots.
so that's
Okay.
the essence of my question.
No,
Yeah.
our policy since, I've been on this committee since 29 or 10 is, you always want to have a non-involved member of the committee as the liaison.
do you have any, I know this is a question we keep asking, Joe, have we heard anything about the moderators appointees?
Oh, yeah.
No,
Or Cecilia, anybody? No?
I have not, no.
no.
So we're a little
And
short.
I have reached out more than once, and I think I have to just wait
I know.
until he comes back.
I know you did.
Is, Maureen, Reg and Dave. Yeah,
So it becomes a bit of a puzzle here.
yeah. Well, if somebody on the team is, like, I've been on the committee for a couple of years, so I can work with Jim. I mean, I could move to the tennis court and do that with Jim. But we need, it's just that we need somebody.
Well, Maureen, can go to the face without any conflict of interest. That's another way of doing that. Is that what you were suggesting?
It sounds like Jim, because he's on the Park and Rec Commission, that puts him out from application 2 or 3 of the tennis courts or the fencing, because both.
Correct.
I thought the tennis courts was the high school, was the school department.
No, it's Park and Recreation.
Oh,
Yeah.
gee.
So at this point, so maybe Dave can be one of the people, right? He could go on a Park and Rec. And I'm wondering if I do this for now by myself, because we do have Lauren, Cecilia, Emily, T-Chalk, believe me, I'm not, but there's that support, which we didn't have in the past, right? Necessarily, we didn't have all of that. And then I can take one of the new people. I'm just trying to work this out. And I know, Joe, if I need you, you'd
Yeah.
be there to help me. I mean,
Yeah, we talked about that. How about if Dave moves to DeFazio and Jim comes up with you, now he's a newbie, but with the housing authority, and that gets him away from the 2 Park and Rec possibilities.
And who joins Laura for housing?
Jim Rosenbaum goes up and Dave Hara goes down.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
unless Dave wants to do too, does Dave want to do
No, we don't do
housing
that.
authority with me? And then the tennis courts or the fence? No?
No, I don't think we want to overextend people.
The housing authority is going to be a heavy lift of all 3 projects. It's the most complicated.
No
project.
question.
Yeah, so we should, I was thinking, I think we should have our most experienced and 18 committee members on it.
Well, we've got Laura, who was the most experienced of the ones who we have here. She worked on it last year.
No, that's what I meant. And the point being that there was a 35-page due diligence document by the end of the process last year, and there's a lot of institutional memory in that, I don't see how Jim could really get up to speed. I haven't brought, I had the point.
Well, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Rich. Go ahead and then I'll give you my comment.
So, I think we need to sort of pick up where we left off. I'm gonna recommend that when we get to the, extra question for part of the meeting here, but, I know, leave me on the tennis courts. I'll figure it out somehow. I don't know. And if I get into a jam, Joe, maybe that's why you are in reserve.
That's right. I didn't plan on taking you off tennis courts. We were trying to get Jim Rosenbaum off of Park and Rec.
Yeah,
I can participate in the tennis court one. That's more complicated. I mean, I could do this is basically a simple project.
but
It's construction oriented.
but your professional background is really needed, I think. I brought this, one question is, what happened to the 4 million? And the answer is the schematic design has just been issued last week, but this requires the kind of professional expertise that you have as,
You're talking about Linda James.
Yeah.
yes.
I thought I was taken off of that, but.
No, I'm suggesting that we need our most experienced.
Yeah, no, I'll be more than happy to
Right.
participate in that.
And I know I got this discussion started in the first place, but I'd rather, have Laura and you who both, hit the ground running today on that project. Because, there's a lot that's happened since this time last year that we need to update the committee about.
All right, Laura, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, Reg, I think this has to be something that like Joe and I kind of work through and, in the same vein as not the proponent not being on the project, you probably shouldn't be making recommendations either for who's dealing with Linden Chambers. So if Dave's willing to do it, that'd be great. Maybe what we do is when we get another person, a new person, we add a third, Dave, to help us, one of the new people. Because what I was going to say earlier is that these projects are going to go on over a long period of time, right? They're going to survive me. So we have to have other people familiar with them besides just Joe and me.
Let me be the deal breaker here. Until we get somebody new, why don't I take Jim Rosenbaum's spot on the DeFazio fence with Gene and pull him off or put him up with Dave and you on the Linden Chambers. It would be good learning experience
Couldn't
for
you
him.
go on the tennis court?
What's that?
Couldn't you?
No,
I tell you what, I know you're saying that's Park and Rec, but I think there's a mistake in that application. Is
Park
that
and
not high
Recreation,
school property?
it's high school property,
Yeah.
but the Park and Rec Commission controls all of the athletic fields and courts. So they have control over the courts and they're responsible for the maintenance and the building of them.
But the programming is the high school, isn't that weird?
No, it's.
They
it's just-
they do a lot of different programming there, so it's also where youth sports play and everything. It's just
Yeah,
they're
so it's
located
not
at the high
just
school.
The high school.
No, yeah.
Team people who play there, it's.
Correct.
Okay.
So let me be the temporary
That's
one
like
with
a
DeFazio, with Gene. Until we get a replacement and then maybe we can transition that person in.
Okay,
Okay, so you
So
can
that's
now.
the fencing. Okay,
Gene
so
The
we
fencing,
have
right.
Gene and Joe on the
Joe?
fencing.
and
Laura and
Jean.
Dave on the Linden Chambers, Reg and Maureen on the tennis courts, and Joe and Jean on the DeFazio fence.
Good.
And were you gonna have Jim on Linden Chambers with them?
I would put him up there with,
So 3.
good learning experience.
You want to do that? Okay.
Okay,
Or the tennis courts.
Yeah. Don't forget, we're getting 2 more people, Joe.
They can't.
Well-
I mean, someday.
Christmas is coming too, but,
It's been a long day. Okay.
all right,
Good, we got it done.
we did.
All right.
All 4 people signed this.
Oh, I haven't done it.
Okay. And then we'll give it to. All right, moving forward. Gene,
The committee presently has how many members?
7. Jim's absent tonight, 2 and 4.
I'm not sure now. Just because it's constituted as a committee of what, 9? Does that mean the quorum is always 5?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or is the quorum, yeah, okay.
We had that question because I wasn't sure and I
Yeah.
confirmed with council, because I was like, what's the real quorum? It's a quorum of the number of members you're supposed to have.
Yeah.
All right, next item on the agenda is the adoption of a CPC code of conduct. And
I'm sorry to interrupt, Mr. Chair, one more time. Is there a deadline for due diligence, project-specific due diligence questions?
it's a good question, good question. What do we want to use as a date?
Or getting questions.
There
in
is
from-
one.
Yes,
So the way, the process deadlines that we have is we notify the applicants by December 1st. Whether or not we deem the project to be eligible.
Yep.
And then by January 1st, we ask for their due diligence responses. So I think we want to get them out as soon as possible.
I believe the application indicates that we'll get due diligence questions to them by December 1st, I think, so.
Right. That's what we say.
Right.
Gosh.
We
Just
say we're
basically-
gonna notify
Yeah.
them and send them the questions at the same time.
And that is the
Yeah.
first round of due diligence. I know in the past, when there's been presentations or the due diligence responses, there may be additional follow-up questions, but that's at least a good first chunk.
And is it fair to say that in the handbook that Lauren put together, there are due diligence questions associated with each one of the categories that we would be considering, whether it be
I think so.
historic or
There's a
Yeah.
template with
Well-
standard questions.
with standard questions,
Yeah.
correct? So those that haven't done that before could use that as a guide, but then we want to have concerns or questions we have as follow-up to what we voted on tonight to be submitted to Lauren by when?
So that's. Well, if we want to get them out by December 1st. Do you want to say? A week prior, so that we've time to.
Yeah.
Make any changes or.
Yeah, because historically, there's been, with everyone sending them, there's always a couple of duplicates or a couple that are close enough, and so we try to merge them, and it gives us time to kind of go through them and make our own document.
Okay,
That's not a lot of time.
It's
Right.
not, and the week prior is Thanksgiving,
right,
you know.
yeah, I was just gonna say that.
I'm leaving Tuesday for Western New York and so.
Well, it won't take
I
me-
really have to do it next week because the reality.
It won't take me too long to compile questions.
So you want to
if-
have the 17th,
If you
which is,
need more time, okay, you think it's doable?
well, I don't know. I'm thinking, Jean likes to stay away from
There'll be more,
Thanksgiving
there'll be
week.
more questions after the applications come in.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I
Right now.
suppose if you say the 24th.
Well-
People have till the 24th, but the reality for me is I'll have to do this next week.
I will say that Emily is heading out of town until the middle of next week.
Yeah.
So I don't think we would have input from her by the 17th
Good
for
point.
due diligence questions for the housing authority. So do we want to say, I mean, I think I would be fine if you made it the 27th or the 28th. I can still pull. If you don't, the Thanksgiving week is probably a tough deadline.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Well, if you're able to do that, why don't we go to the 28th
okay.
and you can assemble them and get them out by the 1st?
And Mr. Chair, question,
Yes, ma'am.
yeah, and maybe even for Lauren, do we know that we can get Emily's input by then?
Well,
Or
I
should
mean, I
we
know-
push
I
things out
think-
like 15 days or so?
Can I make a comment on that or observation? So we've had one meeting with Emily for like an hour.
Yeah,
So that is, hours and hours less than the CPC spent last year on the project. And I don't know that until at least we have the TCHOP presentation, which will be a public meeting, of course, that she will be able to formulate good questions.
well, what she has said that she really needs to formulate her questions. What's most important is something that she did talk to Margaret Moran about at the meeting and had requested the sources and uses of funding as an Excel spreadsheet. And also, she's also asked for, told us that she would like to see like a 20-year pro forma.
Mhm.
And with that will help her be able to really put together a better set of questions, to help with the questions. So we'll just follow up with Margaret Moran on that.
Mhm. So.
And I think the understanding with, when we put out the quote for the quote request for the consultant with the specifications, is not for her to have a recommendation this month. It's not for her to have a recommendation after one round of due diligence questions.
Right.
It really is for her to be a separate from the CPC part of the process in order to provide us some input and direction. And so she'll be asking some due diligence questions. She'll be reading what we ask and reviewing that and following up on that. She'll be listening to the presentation that we do, that all the proponents do, but the housing authority does, formulating questions off of that. So it is kind of an ongoing process. So I don't want us to get too hung up on, well, she doesn't have all the information right now. That was never the expectation.
Yeah, I mean,
Dave?
I would echo that comment.
Yeah.
Not just that she doesn't have all the information, but the members of this
Yeah.
committee don't have a lot of information. And I think, so I think we're putting too much emphasis on these special questions. You know, we got the basic questions. People might have some questions that'll come to mind, but the real questions are gonna come after we see the responses and get more information about these projects.
Is this a good time, Mr. Chair, for me to speak to a proposal that I emailed you about yesterday that I'd like to make, that might help with this discussion?
Laura, do you want to, should we? The question is that Reg had sent some information to us for consideration,
A proposal.
the proposal.
Hmm.
I guess I don't want to get
About
into a deep discussion. of it.
No, I don't think it's the right time right now. As Dave said, like a lot of people haven't, including Maureen, who's new, and even the existing committee haven't heard a lot about what Emily's thoughts are on this, and T-Chalk hasn't really had time to do much. I would rather that information be used in the normal course of all of the information that both Emily and T-Chalk will be looking at in order to help us with our questions. That's how I feel about it. I don't think now's the time to discuss that proposal. It's not on the agenda either. That's my feeling. It will be discussed.
Yeah.
It will be discussed. I just don't know if tonight's the right night. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I respectfully disagree. If we're going to do the code of conduct next, there's no way for me to communicate this proposal except in a public meeting, and I really object to not. It's not going to take very long, and you can shoot it down. But I think it's a really good proposal, and
Celia, I don't. But Reg, it's not on our agenda.
the question of how to collect project-specific questions and when is on the agenda tonight, right?
Right. So in your, to respond to that, I would say it's
has
part of the
everything-
diligence process, which we're not doing now.
No,
I don't know
that
how
has
you feel,
really
Joe.
has nothing to do with that. It's
The-
not,
The agenda with regards to applications only mentions the initial eligibility discussion.
then why are we talking about collecting questions?
That,
We were just
That's
the
the next
dates,
step.
Reg. Just the dates of when we would get the questions. That's all. We weren't talking about any of the questions specific, any of the projects. Just generally, when do we want to get the questions out? You know, and that should be after the eligibility is determined, right? That's all I'm
Yeah. Tied
trying
in
to
with
keep it to
the,
that.
tied in with the notification of the initial eligibility determination is also the sending out of the due diligence questions. Those two are tied together as one process.
Well, I will certainly respect the chair's ruling and co-chair's ruling, if that's what it is, with a strong objection.
okay,
Because I think it's a mistake, and I feel like you're preventing me to communicate with the other members in a public meeting, and, you know, I think they're gonna.
Well,
are wasting of time, and I do think it's within the four corners of what's on the agenda, and I don't see why you were making that ruling.
I think we're extending the purpose of this particular item on the agenda to include other things, which I think is a discussion that we will have, but not at this moment.
But you're asking for questions to be turned in by this, what is our 28th?
28th,
This
correct.
is directly relevant. to
Why don't
that
you
decision.
turn those in on the 28th? Why don't you forward that proposal as part of the.
Because I don't think the other members should be wasting a lot of time if that turns out to be the right way to proceed.
Well, I'm going to close the discussion and have us move on. I respect what you've said. I thought you did a good job in sending what you did to us, but I think it ought to be put at another time and part of the 28th of November. Okay, next item is the adoption of the CPC Code of Conduct And brief background, and Cecilia or Lauren, you can jump in here, but I believe it was the select board that adopted a code of conduct. Other organizations and committees in town have kind of piggybacked that. I think one of the particular is the Historical Society, not Historical Society, the Conservation Commission.
Yeah,
Okay,
historical too.
historical, okay. So I think Lauren has tweaked it, is that correct, Lauren? So that it became a little bit more focused on CPC rather than just kind of a generic.
Yes, nothing substantive, just simply.
You maintained the boilerplate that they had.
Exactly,
Okay.
but just
okay.
kind of just made it such that it referred to our committee.
Okay, okay. Now, there will be some discussion, I believe. Is that right? Is there a, Jean, do I
have one
understand?
point,
Sure.
Just one point.
Yep,
And I speak from my experience and my law career of being firm at this town council and city solicitor. And if a member of a committee ever called me to say, I have a question for you, I will say, I'm sorry, I can't talk with you unless you have a town administrator, whoever it is that lets me know I'm supposed to work on this, say that I should talk with you, because it costs money to talk to town council. You don't just let people pick up the phone. So I was very surprised, and I don't know if this comes out of the other drafts from the other committees, but they're in section 3.8, in section 4.1, and in section 5.1. It seems to encourage people to engage with town council without saying anything about any process you have to go through to do that. Yeah.
So I reached out to town council to get his guidance after seeing your question. And what is referenced in the code of conduct is specific to reaching out to town council regarding personal ethics concerns. So if you have a concern about, you know, an ethical question about your serving on a committee or speaking about something at a committee meeting, he said that you can absolutely reach out directly to him.
Uh-huh.
So you wouldn't need to tell me what your ethics concern is, so then I can go relay it, you can go directly to Chris Heath. But anything related to CPC as a committee that's not ethics related, the Community Preservation Act, a specific application, anything along those lines would still be funneled through myself and Lauren.
Okay, so let me just look at these sections again and see if they, opinions and in these committees.
Bill, I have
Section
a couple.
4.1 on speaking out as an individual at a meeting, if you have concern about that, that's within the realm of what it
Yeah.
says you could talk to. Will engage in any relating to commercial. All right, well, if that's the way it works, then I'm good with
and
that.
I guess other boards feel comfortable with it being as it is, right?
Yeah.
That was my,
Dave?
the Conservation Commission went through the same process, and we modified it just like you did to make it more specific to the Conservation Commission. And then we voted to adopt.
Okay,
it,
all
and
right.
We all signed it. So I recommend that we do the same.
Laura?
Mr. Chair, I just have my hand up. Yeah, I was wondering that too, Jean, and I was wondering if it was because this really was an adaptation from a select board document, right? And select board members may have different latitude with reaching out to town council than other committee people. Maureen, I'm wondering if you've had any experience with this?
No,
Is she
no, I
still there?
haven't.
Okay. So yeah, that was my question too, Jean. You know,
Yeah.
maybe this is, yeah,
Well, it sounds like Cecilia asked that specific question.
Yeah.
And got the answer directly
Okay.
from town council. So.
okay, great.
Answering questions like this must be within the job that he is paid to do.
Yeah, and the questions that you can feel free to reach out to him directly about were ethics related. So do I need to recuse myself from this vote? Do I need to recuse myself from this committee? I have this, you know, potential conflict of interest. Is that something like get his guidance on that? He said that's absolutely where you can reach out, but other things like, you know, should we not put somebody as a liaison who also represents the proponent? That's something that would go through us because that's more committee related than individual personal ethics.
Okay. Any other comments?
Yeah, I have a couple. So, So on section 2.2, where it says, that, you can't communicate with more than one other member outside of a public meeting. What is the reason for that being more restricted than what is required by the public meeting law? Which states that you can't talk to a quorum of people outside, but you can talk to, so for example, if I have 5 board members, and, no 3 board members can talk together, but, 2 is okay. This is when we have all of our people, if we have 9 board members here. And my second related question is, we have co-chairs, so the way this is written, I can't communicate with the co-chairs because that's 2 other board members, committee members.
But is it all right, Mr. Chair, if I
Yes,
respond?
Jane?
I do think that this is stricter than what the law requires, because I think the way it's worded in whatever comes down from the state is that, you can't sequentially talk. Like you talk to this one and then you talk to that one and you're talking one by one. but
Or even
you're
by email.
trying- Yeah, email, you're trying to get an agreement
Yes,
that's
it's
done
called
outside of
serial communication.
serial communication. That's what you can't do.
No.
Right, right.
So A talks to B, B talks to C, C talks to D, and D talks to E in this case of our quorum being 5, and then that's a football.
That is.
Is there a need to take another look at this, or does it seem okay the way it is?
Well, this handbook, albeit from 2015, so maybe we need to find out if there's something more current, does say to be considered a deliberation, the communication must involve a quorum. A communication among less than a quorum will not be a deliberation unless there are multiple communications among the members of the public body that together would be a communication among a quorum.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of.
I
yeah.
do wonder if it was written as not talking to more than one other person because the select board only has 5 members. So if that's something you guys are concerned about and you would like it to be more reflective of the quorum, we can just run that language by council to make sure that there's no specific reason for it to be less, and then we can make that adjustment. If that's
Make it more like the language that was just quoted.
Yeah.
What was you quoting?
And
Reference.
This
that.
is
I think that's a
the,
great suggestion,
Yeah.
Cecilia,
It is.
Yeah, I
because
think
it's
we can-
complicated, the public meeting law is very
Yeah.
complicated.
You do bring up a good point.
Yeah,
with the
that
two
sounds good.
Make it
I have
difficult.
a couple more sort of little things that how it applies to this committee, or confusion. So 2.3 says in preparation for public meetings, members will refrain from taking public stances on the pending agenda items and encouraged to enter each meeting with open-minded and so forth and so on, ready to hear new information. I assume it means not just in preparation. I have 2 points, not just in preparation, but I'm reading this to be, no one of us can speak for the committee, even the chair, you're not gonna, say, that I'm interpreting it as that kind of provision, which is not uncommon. We have a policy like that from the Housing Authority that no individual board member can, speak to the press or something like that. So my question is, what does this mean in terms of public stance? What does public stance mean? Because I can say with every time, all, weekly, monthly, as a board, as a committee member, we represent other boards and then we take back our input and what happened at the meeting. And we're advocating we're obviously advocating, I'm obviously advocating, I won't speak for everybody else, but I would, the Parks and Recreation or the open space people on the committee have advocated publicly for their particular application. And so I'm wondering whether there shouldn't be a carve out here, that is for whoever the committee member is representing, doesn't apply to the moderators, probably appointment, but it certainly applies to the Conservation Commission person, the planning board person, the housing person, Jim is the park and record. You know, it seems to me that that could be fine tuned, that wording. I think the intent is you're not supposed to, you know, do an interview in the paper and say, you know, this is the way, you know, represent that you can tell them how the Conservation Committee is leading one way or the other, you know, when you're doing it with a member of the media, maybe our new Needham Observer reporters or something like that. But, you know, I wouldn't want that, you know, I just said it would be helpful to clarify it with respect to the committees and boards that we represent.
Yeah, I see.
Mr. Chair? Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. Is this something we want to maybe defer on and maybe have a further review by someone? I don't know, Cecilia. You know, if it's something town council should, I don't know. We were just trying to come up with something, you know, that gives us sort of our code of conduct, but I don't want it to be, maybe it's something that's too broad for this
Yeah,
purpose.
I
I'm not
wasn't digging into this as much as Reg was, and he might be right, and I may not be looking
Right.
at it enough, but I just think it's asking you to have an open mind and not take a stance prior to any item being voted on. You don't want to slant or
Taint, yeah, or influence.
push the vote in any one way or the other, or give your view before a vote is taken. I don't know what the committee feels about whether this should be reviewed again, and maybe if people feel strongly about this, in my mind, it's a matter of accountability and letting people know what their responsibilities are. Could we ask that people take another look at this, the committee members, and if they feel strongly about a particular item or two, that they forward it to Lauren. We
It's a good
can,
idea.
we can put it in and then
Yeah.
take another look at it next meeting and not get bogged down on it tonight.
Yeah, it's nothing urgent at all. It was just, you know,
Yeah,
as
Celia?
the chair of the historical
Good.
commission, we had this, so I just thought I'd
Okay.
introduce it.
All
Sorry,
right.
go ahead,
Nope. Anyone else? Is
Jean.
that-
Yeah,
Jean.
I just want to mention that you may have noticed that this is something in the news. I believe it's the Waltham City Solicitor advised candidates for office not to mention any public issues that are before the boards they're running for, particularly if they're incumbents. And the League of Women Voters is taking a stance against this
Really?
because
Mhm.
at its forums, the idea is you want to hear from the candidate what their position is on different things that you might vote one way or another,
Right.
depending on the position.
Right.
So to tie people's hands in a way that the public won't even know where they stand, it's not what we want, really.
Right.
Um,
Like, where do you draw the line? I don't know where you would
Mm.
draw the line there, yeah. But I'm
Right.
glad people are interested in it. I think it's great, and I agree with you, Joe. Maybe just let people take another look.
Okay.
I think that's a great suggestion. I also wanted to say for our minutes, I should have said this up front, but I'm tired, so I'm not thinking just music. You know, I think most of this is great. This is a really good thing to do, especially for new board and committee members, to kind of heighten consciousness. So I'm not trying to, I think there is a fine tuning, and that your suggestion of everybody sending it into Lauren and then sort of reviewing it and, you know, fine tuning it is a great idea.
Yeah. Yeah, no, because honestly, I don't know about all of you, but when I first started on these committees, I didn't know any of these rules.
Right.
You kind of, it's like baptism by fire, to use that term, if that, yeah, so, yeah, I
I
agree.
don't know if I want to think of it quite that badly, but.
I'm sorry, maybe
Yeah.
that's not a bad expression, maybe that's a bad expression, but you know, learning, like you're thrown right in and you don't really get a lot of onboard training, right? You just kind of go, right?
But that's all changed, thanks. Right?
So let's get your suggested changes to Lauren as soon as possible. We don't want to get bogged down in the minutia here, but if there's something that really you feel strongly about that should be reconsidered, let's do it, okay? And we'll hold off until next meeting to vote on the code of conduct. All right, next item on the agenda are the minutes, previous minutes. Nice job, Lauren.
Yes, very good minutes.
I recognize being at most of these. That's always a good thing. Let's do the ones as they come in order here. So the most recent, and then work our way back, since that's the way they come on the packet, okay? So October 11th, 2023, we can, any corrections,
No.
suggestions, changes,
I have none.
okay?
Want a motion?
Let's have
or-
a motion, please.
Excuse me. The last time we did this,
Vote as
we
vote
did
as
it
one.
all as a package. and I-
We can do that. We
Well,
can do that.
but,
I
you
didn't
know,
see the-
how are we gonna handle the other minutes? There's tiny changes to each one of them.
Well, I think, and I think we did this before, is that we can approve the minutes based on, reconciliation of typos and minor comments.
Or even substantive contents. We did it so to save the 20 minutes of doing roll call
Yeah,
votes, and, they're approved subject to the comments. One roll call vote is what we did.
Okay, let's discuss them individually and then vote them as a package, okay? Any corrections or changes on the October 11th?
No,
All right. September 13th,
in the same order, September 13th.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, nothing on that either. From me.
I just had one thing, Mr. Chair, if it's okay.
go ahead.
Um,
Yep,
and Lauren and Cecilia, correct me if I'm wrong, but we refer to Emily Achtenberg as a financial consultant. Should that kind of say housing? Should the word housing be in there somehow, or housing development? Something, because she's not really, just to say she's financial consultant kind of sounds like she's like just looking at our finances.
Sure. Yeah, I think I just picked that up from earlier minutes, but we can make it.
so what are you gonna change it to?
Her title is
Housing con-
housing consultant, right?
Housing consultant, okay.
I would use the affordable word in there too, with my recommendation. I think it's a good point.
Well,
with Laura.
let me look at her email signature, okay? I just don't want it to, I want people to understand what she's really doing, you know what I mean? The
Okay.
subject matter that she's dealing with. So let me just check her signature on her email. I don't know, Lauren, do you,
It's
I'm
housing
pulling it up now.
policy. It's housing policy and development consultant.
And if it makes any difference when the contract we have with her is housing finance consulting services.
That's it. We should, right? We should use what we hired her for.
Use that.
Yeah, thank you.
Housing
sorry about that.
finance consultant. There's
Housing
Robert's
finance consultant.
Housing finance consultant.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
Anything else on the 13th? Very good. Moving along to August 31st.
Yes,
Jean?
just two minor things. We don't say at the location what the location was.
Oh,
We do in
sorry.
our later minutes, we, say it's the Peace Ave, Charles River Room, Peace Ave, 500 Dedham Ave, Needham. We just need to say that. And that's true of other,
Was that one fully remote? There was. there was
no,
one
that
or
is
two.
hybrid, or at least it's said to be hybrid. And then the other thing is, under chairs updates, first paragraph. It says, Dina Hannigan was appointed to the CPC by the Park and Recreation Department. It must be commission, right? Yeah,
Yes,
so those are the two
The
changes.
Park and Rec Commission is different than the Park and Rec Department, right?
Yes,
Oh, yeah,
So is commission correct?
commission is correct, yeah.
Okay.
okay,
Thank you.
Anything else, Jean?
not on those minutes, no.
Okay. June 22nd.
I have two comments, three comments, same thing about the location.
Okay.
And then under chairs updates where, the name Chris Heath is introduced, we should say he's town council Chris Heath.
And is that the
and-
spelling of his name or is it Heep?
It's Heep.
Oh, it
double E.
is, that's
Yeah.
misspelled, yeah, it's Heep, like the character in the Dickens novel.
Okay,
Literary
In fact,
illusion.
check- We refer to him several times, check this spelling.
I'll fix it throughout.
Yeah, it's because you misspelled other places. Again, on the second page, there's a reference. Feedback on proposed amendments to the CPA from the Historic Commission, Housing Authority, Park and Recreation. Should we say commission?
Sure.
Yeah, I think that's what we meant. Yeah, on that. So that's June 22nd.
Okay. April 13th, 2022.
I just said the tiniest thing. Nothing to do with mentioning, and shares updates, last, there's a reference to Jay McKnight will cover rooms A, B, and room EF, but you just say cover rooms A, B, and EF. Just the way it does with Seagerster will cover room CD. And Pete Pignature will cover rooms GH and IJ. It's just, except that second room after Jay McKnight. Okay.
March 30th.
Oh, yeah, there's, under CPA financial summary, the first, this, it's not a sentence, it needs some words.
Okay.
A discussion, I put in words, was had. Discussion was had regarding the report provided by Dave Davison, because otherwise there's no verb. I went to grammar school. Senior Patterson Grammar School. Okay, that's all I have.
Oh, thank you.
And nobody else had anything, so I guess we're ready to vote on all of them.
That's the last one.
We need a motion with all the dates.
That is the last one.
I don't move it.
So I would entertain a motion for the approval of minutes with amended, with corrections made for 9/13/23, 10/11/23, 3/30/22, 4/13/22, 6/22/22, and 8/31/22.
So moved.
Second,
Second,
roll call vote, Laura,
Yes.
Maureen,
Yes,
Dave,
Yes.
Jean,
yes.
Reg,
Yes.
the chair votes yes as well.
Thank you, Lauren. I know that's a lot of work and you weren't even involved in some of these, so we really, really appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome, Laura.
Point of
Really
information
well
question.
done.
Mr. Foster,
So are there any remaining minutes that need to be caught up on?
My list. I think we're close, Reg.
getting.
I have 4 more, so next meeting, the last
The
4.
end is in sight.
Yeah.
You know, I think we,
September 22 through December 22.
all right, if we get them next.
That's a good question, Reg.
I
I thought that was it. That's a good question.
Commendation and recommendation for a raise or something, you know. So anyway, thank you.
Any other comment before we,
Can I vote on that one?
Yes, sir.
I would remind committee members that and I may have mentioned this earlier, but I'll say it again, but the handbook that Lauren has assembled that is accessible to CPC members online is extremely helpful to use as a resource. I've got to find some way to be able to save it without contacting Lauren every time I want to look at it.
I will get you an answer.
Will you
for that.
please? That'd be great, but it's a great resource. I'm glad we have it. Any
Yeah,
other item?
I was gonna ask a question. I just was wondering, I thought we had that. I don't know if I know how to get it either, Lauren. I thought I'd saved it. Is it
I
a
can
Google
recirculate
Doc?
the link.
It's in a
It's
Dropbox, right?
basically a link, a Dropbox link that I sent out by
Oh,
email. So
okay.
I can recirculate the email with the link.
Okay, that
You
would be
can
great.
download it, or you can bookmark the link so that you can go back to it.
Okay,
Perfect.
Why don't you just put it on
Thank you.
the town page for the CPC?
it's,
Well, we could, but we needed to make a decision about whether we wanted to do that, and if we did, we take out contact information of members. It was a question that we never answered, so I just put it out internally.
yeah.
Thank
So
you.
let's get it out to those that want to get some way to save the link or a suggestion, whatever you could give us to not have to call you each time we want to look at it.
Sure.
Okay, all right,
Sure.
This is also on the link.
yes.
Red other things on next month's agenda. So, and this is no particular order. So I wondered if it would be possible to get, I have not gotten this anyway, maybe everybody else has, a copy of, the, Emily Ackenberg's, resume, the, proposal and the, and most particularly her contract or whatever is the scope of work, what we can and can't ask her to do. And unless everybody else in the committee has seen that, I have not seen that.
Is some of that, is all of that public information?
The scope of work is definitely public information, which, so is the contract, but to be quite frank, the contract just says they'll do what's on the scope of work, so the scope of work's actually more what you're looking for. With regards to her resume, I would just want to run that by her, just in case she wants to provide one that maybe doesn't provide all of her contact information or whatnot, just to run that by her. And what was the third one? Sorry.
Proposal, resume,
Oh,
and
the proposal
contract.
also is
yeah.
public information, yeah.
So I just think that would help us understand, what was done by the former chair, I guess. So that was one thing. Secondly, and I don't have a recommended answer to this, but has anybody besides me met Emily? Or know anything about her?
Through Zoom, yeah.
That I met through Zoom, yes, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
You
Yep.
know.
Yep.
I mean, at some point, maybe not necessarily next time, but I think there's an introduction to her and for her to sort of present her credentials. Because I had the Cambridge Housing Authority, she's already very well known in the industry and been around forever, but.
She did that.
She did attend, a meeting,
Oh, okay.
the September meeting is kind of an
Then
introduction.
Then I'm just, sorry.
So that's
brain
why her
fog.
name is familiar.
Yeah.
Okay. The third thing, again, just, a mercy thing, but, is there any way that we can get the board, the committee packet out the Friday before the Wednesday meeting, now that
Sure.
we've got you up on the team here? Because, it's really helpful to have a little more elapsed time to read minutes and so forth.
Mhm.
And I don't know where Gene finds the time to do it in, 48 hours here, but I'm sure glad you're on the
Well,
committee,
I don't-
because I
I
don't,
don't have a paid job.
but, maybe have that as just a general policy. I don't mind, have something coming in on Monday if it's not ready, but I'd rather have most of it on Friday. And then, another thing on Monday or Tuesday or something like
I
that.
agree. A planning board is always out on Thursday for the Tuesday meeting,
Okay.
very faithfully. And I think to have it Friday for the Wednesday meeting would really be
Yeah.
helpful.
Having it the weekend to look at it is
Yeah.
helpful. Yeah,
Makes sense.
do what you can do.
That's it for me.
Okay, any other item discussion? I would entertain a vote to adjourn.
I so moved to adjourn.
Second.
We'll go roll call vote. Laura,
Yes.
Maureen,
Yes.
Dave,
Yes.
Jean,
Yes.
Reg,
Aye.
And the chair votes aye as well. Thank you, everybody. We are adjourned.
Thank you.